Millions of illegal aliens have entered our country for numbers of years during the Biden-Harris administration, many of whom disappeared into communities with no monitoring or accountability across our country. And so my question is, what potential threats do they continue to pose to American communities if these individuals are not caught and investigated? And what should we be doing to continue to round up those violent illegal immigrants who are in our local communities?
Thank you, Congressman. And I think it's important. We always have to be looking at the violent criminals and those who pose a threat to our communities. And we need to be looking at the support to do that. The support from this body and the support of the administration and support of others to be able to fight violent crime and to ensure that we're enforcing the laws that are on the books. It's the officers that are on the ground who are enforcing the law. They're not making the law. If the law needs to be changed, that's Congress's job. We need to make sure that we're enforcing and bringing violent criminals to justice.
With the increase in funding that this body, Congress, has approved recently for those efforts, do you feel that you have adequate resources to go out and do the job that you need to do?
That's yet to be determined. The resources are given, it's being utilized, and it's hard for me to comment on that. I'm not I'm not an active law enforcement officer, but that's soon to come. We could always use more resources.
Understood, and certainly agree with that. That's why I continue to support increased funding both here in Congress and for our local law enforcement back home, and understand that need and want to continue to work to provide appropriate funding to make sure that we keep our communities safe. Next, Mr. Yoes with the Fraternal Order of Police. First, I'd like to commend your organization. We have a terrific Pennsylvania FOP led by Joseph Regan, local chapters that are fantastic in all of our local communities. They do great work in representing their membership and also law enforcement in our communities. And so want to commend you and make sure that we get that on the record as well. We have seen this increased rhetoric, this anti-police rhetoric. There was the Defund the Police movement. Thankfully, I think even those that espouse those beliefs have come to recognize that was maybe the dumbest political thing that they could have ever said. So they have backed off of that, and they have started to change their tune. They've come around and woken up to the realization that we need law enforcement in our local communities. But that rhetoric has damaged our law enforcement capabilities. When I talk to our local law enforcement, they say that they are challenged to find people that want to fill these jobs. Recruitment is down, retention is down. Talk to me about what you're seeing and experiencing in recruiting new members, retaining those people, and how you're addressing those issues.
Right. Councilor, thank you for the question, and you are correct. We do have a very strong membership in Pennsylvania. We actually got our birth there 110 years ago, so that's where the Fraternal Order of Police was started. So it is very near and dear to me. You know, you bring up a very good point. You know, we went through this period where we had discussions about defunding police. We needed to take power away and take resources away from law enforcement officers, somehow thinking it was going to make better communities. And you're right, we have moved past that. I think most recognize that if you want to have an impact on law enforcement, you ask a law enforcement officer because they do it every single day. So when we have discussions on how we improve the criminal justice system and exclude a very important part of that, you're going to end up with results, I call them failed experiments, because we know unless you have everyone sitting at the table having these discussions on how to improve it, you're going to have problems. So we went through this whole defunding period where we did so much damage to law enforcement. While we might have moved on from the whole concept of defunding law enforcement, what we did is we made it less appealing. So we have a recruiting, I'll argue with it, we don't have a recruiting and retention problem. We have a retention and recruiting problem, because the best recruiters we have are the people that are law enforcement officers who recognize somebody within a community and say, you have the qualities that we need within our community. Why don't you come help us shape the future of our community? That's how they got into law enforcement. They didn't get into law enforcement because they saw a commercial on TV and said, join my agency, or some slick ad. No, they got in because of a personal connection to somebody that reached out to them. We've made our job so less appealing to people that we're dealing with a problem. And here's the problem with it. It is almost generational, because you can't hire an officer today and expect them to be an effective officer for probably 5-6 years. So every time we have somebody walking out the door, know that it is not easy to fill that position.